All right, well, welcome to another episode of Tuesday Talks with Toomey. We got a little different format here today where we're doing a live kind of virtual side-by-side talk. And, we're really talking to companies, MedTech companies, really trying to break through those hospital walls, especially if you have a contract, you can try to get a contract, kind of what's next. So I'm really excited today to have PJ Valentini from IDN with us today. Which is a platform of vendors you may or may not know about, but it's kind of like who's in the IDN and who's part of the IDN and who do I go to try to break through some of these barriers. So today we really want to address that kind of overall conversation of good quality data. How do I get over some of these hurdles? What's working in the contracting world and, what we're each hearing for. So with that, PJ, welcome to the talk today. Appreciate having you there.
Dan, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's great to sit down with you today in MedBridge Advisors. And, in some ways we kind of go in hand with each other a little bit. Obviously we're focused at IDNDirectory.com, focused on getting people access to kind of the hard to reach places and help people identify who those IDN leaders are in the purchasing space, which is hard enough to do. But, where MedBridge Advisors comes in, and that's where I'm really excited to be, sitting here and collaborating with you is you guys give people that, not just the access, which I can help with, but you guys help people to kind of work through the access and kind of help them with the strategic placements of that access. And so, I'm just really, really excited to be here today and kind of learn from you and kind of hear about some of the pain points that are going on in the industry. And so I would kind of turn it back over to you now. Tell me a little bit about, MedBridge Advisors. What are you guys up to these days?
Yeah, thank you. So, MedBridge Advisors was founded to help kind of simplify that GPO, IDN, and value analysis contracting strategy. Really, I see small to mid-sized MedTech companies, but for anybody who is either trying to get their first contract or looking to kind of maximize it, and also to connect the dots. It's not just about that contract signature; it's about day one readiness and getting, moving things forward afterwards. And how do you penetrate the contract and what tools are out there? And that's why I think this conversation today is going to be great for us to kind of talk through is, what tools can I use today? So IDN Directory, you guys have been around for a while and really growing, and the presence in the market is getting great. So if you don't mind, can you get an overview of what IDN Directory, offers to customers, what the simple tools of it is, and kind of, what to expect if they were to kind of use it as a service?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dan. So our users, the people who are using the IDN Directory, what they're going to get out of it is one, they're going to be able to kind of get streamlined org charts of all of those purchasing leaders to kind of make it easy so they can consolidate, so they know exactly who to go after at the C level, kind of at that corporate head facility. But also we have great relationships with our news agencies. My boss, John Pritchard, has been in the industry for over 30 years. Managing the Journal of Healthcare Contracting and his larger entity, Share Moving Media, and he has such a great rapport with all of these supply chain leaders and purchasing folks that basically he's able to kind of get them to be present in our network and make themselves available to be available for suppliers to make connections with. So we have obviously great contact details that we can share with our users. To help them find the right access points into the IDNs. But we also keep them up to speed with the news of the IDN space as well, so that they're in the know about, acquisitions, mergers, hard times for the hospitals and the facilities and the IDNs. And additionally, also, we do also featured content where we actually will sit down and actually do these really nice interviews with hospital supply chain leaders. Most recently, Joe Colon over at Piedmont, we did one with, and Ed Jones over at HCA, and Ed Hiscock at Trinity, where they talk about really important things, like how to best approach them as a supplier, what their spend's going to look like for the year, and kind of some of the ins and outs of what they're dealing with and some of their pain points. So really good information. So the IDN Directory is almost like a Swiss Army knife in your back pocket, if you will, because it gives you access to the contact details, tells you a little bit about what those IDNs are going through right now, but also gives you some more in-depth in the know from the source with our webinar. So it's a nice kind of comprehensive tool to kind of really keep you IDN ready, if you will.
Oh, it sounds great. some of those webinars and stuff are invaluable just to hear, right from the source. And especially today, with there's so many different hot topics and tariffs and taxes and supply chain issues, right? To have kind of live talks or webinar talks is something to look forward to. So that's great. How often is your information updated? Where is that kind of when they go in and see, okay, contacts, how do you know if someone leaves, they're still getting the right information?
That's a great question. So we have a very unique opportunity at IDN Directory in front of us, because what we do is we use human profilers. So we have a human team of people going out and sourcing data. We don't use AI in any form or fashion. So it's a very organic search, if you will. Because again, we have such great ties to the kind of journalistic space of what's going on in supply chain through my boss and through, the JHC, the ANAE, and also the Repertoire magazine, which is all part of Share Moving Media. We're really in the know about when people are moving around. And John also has great relationships with a lot of these leaders. So they're very quick to talk about like, hey, this one's left, or, so we can kind of keep tabs on people, I'd say better than most. I'd say also, we're very consolidated in the IDN space. So, we have a little bit of less data to manage, I'd say, than most. But because we have that, we can really stay on top of our sources. And so whether it's news articles from our publications or other publications out there like Becker's or, some of the larger publications out there, we can stay on top of finding out when people leave. My team's always on LinkedIn, so they're looking at people's profiles all the time and checking out where they're moving to. And then also we hear things through the grapevine as well. And occasionally our suppliers will tell us also, we're obviously always aiming to be perfect. But in certain cases, we'll get a supplier say, hey, I bumped into so-and-so. It looks like they have a new interim. Here's the info. And so we're all partners in the industry. And so we kind of thrive off each other. But our human team does a fantastic job of keeping us sanitized and updated.
That's great. I could tell you from many years as a strategic account director, and man, it's so tough when you finally get somewhere and then you find out that person's left. Like, it takes forever to get a contact, and you get it and that person's gone. It's like, who's next? Right. So having live data that not only comes from the industry, as far as what you guys are learning, but also your customers, right? The other vendors sharing it, keeps it pretty relevant. So it helps everybody out. We're all trying to navigate the waters together. So, it sounds like there's a good way to be on the same ship with IDN Directory. Is great.
Absolutely. No, we're a good complement to any team that has the ability to go after IDNs and has that ambition. And so we really are looking forward to partnering with those. But, that would bring me to an interesting question here, Dan. Obviously access is what I do, but access is really hollow if you can't get the real value out of the access. And so I think that's where, you and MedBridge Advisors come in. And so I would ask you, kind of as I ask you some questions today, really kind of the first thing is, you get that access. And so now you have to think about, what are some of your best practices going into this first conversation? And so, what would you say really are some of the best practices that vendors should follow kind of to get the most value out of their GPO contracting?
Yeah. It's the number one question I think we get all the time. Getting the contract is just a part of the equation. You can bring in resources, you can go through the steps and the hoops to sign a contract, but day one readiness is so important, right? So best practices to me is not only as you're navigating, you're trying to get ready to have and sign your first GPO, or your third or fourth or fifth GPO, but is your sales team and is your internal team, is your admin team, or is everyone aligned in that strategy, what it's going to be like to go to market with that contract? You have to manage the contract at the GPO level, at the IDN level, and at the clinical level. So that means you got to have full engagement, not only at, within your own sales team, but have responsibilities of constant touch points and updates and communication with that GPO contract manager. If you're winning it at the IDN level, there should be continuous conversations at that IDN level, and the sales team should understand what conversations and who's has lead, in each one of those areas. So there's no crossover. So really, I would say it's communicating, it's having clean data, as best you can, because data is very hard to keep clean, but having good targets, knowing where those resources are and who to contact, and then keeping everyone aligned. from before the contract starts, and especially as you launch and start implementing, having full alignment. Don't wait 6 months to see, oh, I didn't get as many sales as I want. Build that strategy up front when you're ready to go live with it.
Absolutely, man. That's a great answer right there.
Yeah. How have you seen with your customers, and this is actually a big part of it, using something like IDN Directory for onboarding, whether it's onboarding a new IDN or as you're onboarding new reps or a new strategy with IDN and sales reps, have you seen some of your customers use it as a tool to kind of build out their top IDNs or go to market strategy?
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, that's a great question to ask. So yeah, we will really where we find we can help our larger teams is, most often there'll be a super user using the kind of the platform, but we have such deep level documentation on like parent-child relationships for large systems. So basically what it can do is we can clearly identify not just the IDN top level facilities, but also break down for you also where all those smaller facilities are as well. So for teams that have like a large national accounts team, and maybe they have somebody kind of managing the IDN, but needs to spread their sales team out to some of the more smaller health systems inside of that IDN, this is a great tool to use because it basically clearly identifies who all those children relationships are at the corporate level. And you can really set a team up for success. And we have ways of pulling dossiers together. So everybody can have, you talk about alignment. Sometimes the lack of alignment because is that they're getting data from different places. And sometimes if they don't speak to each other, it makes it a little bit hard. Our system allows those IDN and national accounts teams to really consolidate all the data and help them create some good alignment because all the data is the same and they're taking it from the same spot. So we always recommend, look, if you're going out and you're getting ready to kind of, attack a new IDN and start really getting your breath out there, make sure you look at these parent-child lists, make sure you know all the GPOs that are servicing the entire network. And we list all that data as well. The GPOs, even if they have a secondary GPO or even if they have like they're owned by a specific facility, but they're still kind of in that network, we list it all out there. So I think the IDN directory really helps you find the needles in the haystack is what I would say.
It's always good to have information and it's going to keep coming. So that's good. Let's talk about alignment, inside of the GPOs and in the hospital systems a little bit too.
I would kind of turn it over to you on that because, obviously without saying too much, I've heard of sales teams actually not really being necessarily really well aligned when they're kind of, working with their GPOs or even the health systems. And sometimes it's just, hey, get the contract and then we're good. And so what I would ask you is that, talking about alignment in your experience, how do you think vendors can really better align themselves with GPOs or even hospital systems?
Yeah. Well, it is all, I look at it different ways, but if I think about like streamlining your operations is really important, right? So it's not just aligning your sales structure. I think a lot of times GPOs ask like, hey, is your sales team dedicated to our GPO? Well, everyone's love to say yes, but in the real world, it's not possible to have that many folks, in each of the main GPOs, but operational, how are you aligned? Is your pricing strategies aligned? Do you have pricing tiers? Do you have, value adds? Does the operational team have those tiers for activations, set up, ready to go? Like think about those internal things that they're going to want to understand is that you have good tracking ability of their members with your sales. You know who's using your product. You know what tiers they're on and what's activated. You're going to get an activation report from the GPO also. So how are you using that to pay fees back? Right. And then you build out your rep playbook because you now you have your activation list that they give you as a member, of a GPO, as a contracted supplier. You're going to get the full roster. You're going to get the field sales reps and the VPs, contact information too. So how are you engaging with them day one, not day 90, but day one? Like, and I think it's a big part of when you're negotiating a contract is showing that you are ready to be part. If it's your first contract, that you're ready to have them on as a contracted GPO, and you're ready to help the members out because you have not only the sales team trained and ready, but internally from your admin side, your operations side, supply chain, everything's lined up and everybody's talking the same language of day one readiness. I think that's probably one of the bigger strategies that the GPOs want to hear is that inventories, education, and then all the intricate parts that they need to monitor the GPO is ready to go by day one.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's makes complete sense because, you don't want to, like you said, that 90-day period, a lot can happen. And so obviously coming in with yourself ready right from the get go and, being able to solve those problems right up front is extremely important. And so, this kind of brings me back to, maybe another question here is, you know, off contract purchasing is obviously something that happens very much in the industry. It's not always the best solution, and so, but it happens, and so I'm curious to hear your kind of input on what are some of the strategies that you think could help prevent kind of off contract purchasing.
Well, you're going to be the champion for your own company, and you have to be working with the right folks as well. So not only is it the clinicians, and I read something actually this morning. It was like just in the world of sales, accept that your strongest customers and who might be your strongest friend, it's still going to shop around. They're still going to talk to the competition, and that's just the nature of the beast. So how are you championing yourself with those GPUs set up to make sure that you're aligned with? Do they have the right pricing structure? Are they on the right tiers? Are there value adds you've put into your contract for growth incentives or rebates? Or not? Are they qualifying for them? Are you communicating with them how close they are to those rebates? And not only with the customer, but then again, I would say with the field sales rep or the GPO contract manager, if they want to know that there's performance and there's success within the contracts that they've awarded, but they can also help you. And if you're saying, hey, listen, here's 10 accounts that are $10,000 away from moving to the next tier, and that next tier could be $50,000 in savings, right? So, it's spelling that out and being transparent and sharing that with not only the customer, but with the GPO, and they can help you, right? They can get you in, with a contact or the RD or the field service rep or, the GPO rep. They can help get in front of the right people and say, wow, actually, this could help me too, right? This is my bonus is kind of on the line here, but if I can get some extra growth and drive some savings at the same time with an on contract product, I'm going to help try to keep that off contract product out of the way.
Sure.
And then what I would say is also don't be afraid to get if you have like a national distributor, don't be afraid to get them involved. Don't be afraid to bring in the Cardinal, the McKesson, the Medline rep, and build a strategy around there as well as with supply chain, with inventory, whatever it may be. Not only have the pricing line and the contract T's and C's for growth, but here's an extra piece you could do something and have that comfort zone that we've got you covered from A to Z. It just kind of help build walls up around the business.
Wow. Yeah. No, that's great insight right there, Dan. Thank you.